There's a part of me that's always wanted to be on the inner circle, that trusted group that's given the most responsibility, the most information. When I was in college, first couple years, during the summers, I worked at a summer camp, and the camp director seemed to have an inner circle. And I wasn't in that group. Like, he had a few people that he really trusted. He would call on them all the time. And I just always wondered, how do I get in this group? I loved the camp, loved the guy. And I even wrote a bunch of camp songs, produced an album of camp songs for that camp. Loved it. But years later, when I became a camp director and ran my own camp, I ran into the same problem. I had a limited amount of time, and I couldn't get to know everybody to the same level. So when I needed something done, I would call on a few people. It was really hard to let everybody in to help decide all of the important things. Had to pick and choose. So we are studying through the Gospel of John, and we're getting up to John 14. And we've just kind of read about the Last Supper. Jesus washes his disciples' feet, and he gathers in this inner circle. And there's not room for the whole world in this inner circle. There's not room for everybody. And there's something really exclusive about this, but also something really, really important, really sensitive, really vulnerable. Jesus gathers his most trusted people, but it's also a problem. It's like, what if I can't get in? What if I wasn't walking around? And what if I wasn't living in the time when Jesus came on earth? Do I have any way to get access to God in that kind of way? So we get to listen in John chapter 14 to Jesus talking to his inner circle, really just hours before he's arrested and just hours before he's crucified. It's a really tender moment. And Jesus says in John 14, verse 15, "If you love me, you'll keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father." Talk about an inner circle. "I'll ask the Father, and he will give you another helper, even the Spirit of truth." I mean, that's the original inner circle: the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. And this inner circle, you think, how do I get on the inside of that? But Jesus is saying, I'm going to ask the Father to send you the Holy Spirit to invite you into our inner circle, to invite you in. And this is something, the second half of John 14, that's really mind-blowing. By leaving, when Jesus leaves in bodily form, he says, you're not going to be limited anymore in the same way that I'm limited, right? Only a few people can fit around this table. Only a few people could see Jesus when he was walking on earth, right? Physically, Jesus had limited himself, but he's saying that's not going to be the case anymore. I'm going to go away and send another helper, the Spirit of truth. And he says, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him or knows him, but you know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. And so we're going to study John 14, pre-read John 14, and we'll look at it this coming Wednesday, and ask the question, has the Spirit of God ever spoken to you? Has he drawn you in so that you get a sense of what the voice of God is saying, what the character of God is like, what he's talking to you about, what he cares about? This inner circle, this chance to lean in and hear the voice of God, is no longer limited to that one room 2,000 years ago, and if you weren't there, too bad. It's not limited in the way that we are limited. We have a limited number of friends that we can get to know and get to trust. We all have something of an inner circle, but God, because of the Holy Spirit, he's inviting everyone into the inner circle. So read John 14, read the second half of it, verse 15 through the end of the chapter, and spend the week asking the Lord to speak to you. Ask his Spirit to speak to you. And then we'll come in and we'll talk about it. Has God's Spirit ever spoken to you? Have you ever had a sense that you were in the presence of God, that you were in the inner circle? And we'll read that and discover it together.